And the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender Violence is an international campaign which originated from the first Women's Conference Leadership Institute, sponsored by the Center for Women's Global Leadership in 1991. And participants chose the dates: November 25th, International Day Against Violence Against Women, and December 10th, which is International Human Rights Day, in order to symbolically link violence against women and human rights, and to emphasize that such violence is indeed a violation of human rights. And that is what we're talking about today, because we are in between those dates, November 25th and December the 10th. It is how long this campaign will be running. And joining me in studio this morning is Linda Munyendo. Thank you very much. She'll be talking to us about her story, and also Lydia Muthiani, who's Deputy Director COVA, which is Coalition on Violence Against Women. Linda, I'll start with you. This, of course, for you, you went through an experience which I'd want you to share with us, even as we go ahead with the discussion.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to have me in the studio.
Thank you for coming.
In 2009, in Mombasa, GPU, in an office, I was raped by guys I didn't know. And in my mind, I used to think that rape happens maybe in the nightclubs or in some dark streets, but it was during the day in an office. GPU is in the city center, and I went to report to the police, but the lady I spoke to that day never helped me. And it was a very hard moment for me, because eventually many bad things happened, a pregnancy and many other things. And it brought a lot of issues of suicide, and
You had suicidal thoughts.
Yes, and now that after the ordeal I was so scared, so I wasn't even able to go to work.
Help us clarify, maybe help us understand. How many first men were they?
It was one.
One. Okay.
But there were two, but it was one who defiled me.
Were they known to you before?
No.
So you're in the office, and this man just comes in?
I was looking for somebody. So after waiting, because that person I was waiting for took a while to come, so they offered I sit in their office to wait, because I was just waiting at the lift area. In the office on the floor, it happened.
After that, did you tell this person what had happened? Who did you share with first?
The police. I went to the police, and here the response was, I requested to see a female officer, but it wasn't, she didn't even feel me. It's like we were in two worlds apart, you know, what happened, and she was just doing it so quickly. We went to the crime scene, and when we didn't get those guys, she just told me, okay, go and come back on Monday. So now, because I didn't know what happens, or I thought of going to hospital, but I didn't have enough money. I didn't know exactly what to do. So,
So did you eventually go to hospital?
Later, after about 2 months, then now I was really suicidal. So I went, I talked to a psychologist, and I remember she told me that it's never your fault. And she gave me an example of the commercial sex workers, and she told me that even them, their job, is selling their bodies. It has to be an agreement. So despite their work, you have to agree that, it is 1,000 or whatever. But even if it happens by force, it's also a crime.
Very sorry for what happened, and we'll continue still engaging with you. But Lydia, when did you meet Linda? And of course, this is just one of the very many unfortunate incidents that we get to see and hear about in the country.
Thank you very much, first of all, for having us here. It's very good to have a station like the Standard Media Group recognizing the 16 Days of Activism, the largest campaign on violence against women every year. I originally met Linda in 2010 when I joined COVA, and she is one of our champions. We have recognized her as a human rights champion. She also works with Kova as a community resource person. So she's one of those ones who we use as an example that it can be tough from the onset, especially with the psychological effects of sexual violence. But you can see her now, many years after her sexual violation, and she is standing strong, and she's one of our people who assist sexual violence survivors within the community in Nairobi. Yes.
Okay. I'll come back to you because I also want to talk about the 16 days and what is happening currently in Kenya. But Linda, you've mentioned the suicidal thoughts that you had at that time. Did you share with any friends, family? How was it, other than the fact that you're feeling like, I want to take away my life, I do not feel, was it because you did not feel worthy, you felt I should not continue? Take us through the days following this.
I felt dirty. I felt, I normally give an example, like ladies, your handbag, when somebody just comes and starts checking inside, you feel, irritated.
Yes.
What about your body? You in that moment, you have no right to your body. You have no right to say no or yes. And there was a knife that was put on my neck, so it was, my life was on the line, and the insults and everything. But I hated myself. I told myself, why did I go to Mombasa? Because I was working in Nairobi. Why did I, or was I wearing inappropriate? Or, now I was blaming myself. And it was so hard on me because now I was withdrawn. I was always in my house. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to interact with people. And as a result of that, eventually now, no money to cater for me, and I was in the streets, and things went from bad to worse.
Okay.
But slowly, because I remember even my right side, I had partial paralysis because now all the stress and everything. But with the counselings and the support I got from hospital, and one friend of mine who works in Kenyatta, she just kept telling me to hang in there, And slowly I came back on track. And even now when I talk to women, when you tell me you don't have food, you don't have rent, I know what it means to sleep out. I call myself a wounded healer, that I have gone through many, many bad things, but out of them, I choose to rise up and reach out to other women, young girls, and just tell them, if there's nothing I can do, just give you a hug and tell you it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. Lydia, how are we doing in terms of such cases in the country? Because from what she said, justice eventually was never served. And it's unfortunate that even when you go to report the kind of treatment what she received, there is no that empathy, understanding. There is no, even at least just taking it all in and attempting to investigate. And it's not the first. We're seeing quite a number of this. So Kenya and the strides, is she making any in regarding to how she deals with this kind of cases?
Okay. Now, Sophie, I'm trying to be very positive.
Yeah.
I'm having a very positive outlook these days.
Yes.
Because it's very easy to point out so many things which have gone wrong, especially for people like Linda, who have yet to secure the justice. But there are some strides, especially now. I can tell you for a fact, we have been working together with the police. It is slow moving, I can tell you. Especially when they started the gender desks. We all thought that the gender desks would be this resounding success.
Yes.
Problem is, they really have not worked that well.
Okay.
Yeah. If she can tell you that she's speaking to, because as a survivor, you have the right to ask to speak to a female officer. But it doesn't mean that a female officer will handle you sensitively. They might not even understand what exactly you're telling them.
They don't relate.
They just don't relate at all, yeah? And that's one thing which now the police have responded very positively to, because in Kiganjo right now, when they're undergoing training, the police cadets, when they're going through their training, they have actually extended the training to be a 15-month training, and it's going to include courses on gender-based violence and sensitive handling of sexual violence victims or gender-based violence victims. So that's a huge stride.
Yes, it is.
Problem is, that's the cadets. How then does that filter to all the people who are already within the police force? That's the question we have to start asking ourselves.
Those that have already been in there for many years.
And there has to be a values readjustment. We have been going to meetings and speaking to the police and speaking to other influential partners about asking that the National Police Service be mandated or obliged to undertake continuous education every year. For instance, like the way advocates, we have to go through continuous legal education. Same thing with medical service providers like doctors. They must go through continuous medical education. It should be the same for the police. And in this way, we will be able to do values readjustment. When you take them through courses which are compulsory every year, you can address people who are already sitting in office. And it has to start from the top. So we talk about values readjustment from the top, and also the changing of the institutional ethos within the National Police Service. We need that sensitive handling. People must start to understand what the effects of gender-based violence are.
Take us through also the 16 days of activism. So this is not only in Kenya,
no,
it's around the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
16 days of activism, of course, is an international campaign. But what we do is that sometimes we feel the international campaign itself, the theme of the year, it has been running, I think, now for the 4th year in a row, where we're talking about addressing militarism. And when you think about addressing militarism, you think about the state of mind. Yeah? So when you think about it, what would be the reason why there would be violence against women? I think it goes completely to the state of mind, because it is a control issue, it's a power issue.
Yes.
Now, the negative attitudes which also relate, especially when it comes to people who assist victims of gender-based violence or violence against women, we also have to address that state of mind. So when we talk about a militarized mind, you question exactly what goes through, number one, perpetrator, or number two, the people who assist the violent survivors. But as a regional theme, we adopt it for Africa, the setting for Africa. It's a more consumable theme where we talk about power. We all have power, but what are you doing with yours? So Kova actually is running a campaign on I've got the power. What are you doing with yours, Sophie? You're using your power today to talk to us about violence against women. You're going to reach hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Kenyans, to inform them about what it means to be violated, where to get assistance, what needs to change in Kenya so that we can be able to address violence against women. She has power. Linda has power. She's come here. It takes a lot of bravery for her to speak about what happened to her.
It does.
And it's something now which can make other survivors go like, well, you know what? She's okay. She's doing fine. So maybe I should go and look for help, especially psychosocial support, which comes to when it comes to the mental health of violence victims. So I've got the power. What are you doing with your power?
With your power. Very well put. And Linda, it's as she said, admirable that you have that, and I'm sure with that you're inspiring very many other people who've gone through the same or even worse, just the fact that you're able to speak about it. But have you continued to pursue justice? Is it something you decided, let me just, you know what, I tried, they did not help me at the beginning, so forget about it?
At one time I thought of it, at around 2010, I thought of pursuing, but when I looked at the legal system, the police, I could not. I even have the phobia with the police. I'm really trying hard to just talk to a police. To me is, it's a bit
difficult.
Because I think they failed me completely. At my hour of need, when I needed them the most, and a woman, I don't know. I see it's a losing battle because, with rape cases, you need to have the evidence and everything. So just thinking of going through that court process and then you're told there's no case, I don't think I'm strong enough for that.
Okay. And what for you would you say it took to get to the place where you're at now? A place where first you decided, you know what, I will talk about it. I'm not going to be victim. I'm going to be a victor out of this unfortunate situation, and that I'm no longer going to be in that place where I feel dirty and I'm going to have that confidence, esteem, and still run on with my life. What did it take to get to that place?
I think just the thought that I was so lucky that God preserved me that day. Many go through it and are killed, because that day a knife was on my neck. And just being around people, because we normally have support groups of survivors of sexual violence. So just being around women who have gone through the same what I've gone through gave me the strength to just know I'm not in this alone. And out of those support groups, after we finished now the support groups, we have chamas as sexual violence survivors. We do table banking, just economic empowerment. Because now after going through that ordeal, sometimes, like my case, I wasn't able to go back to work because of the trauma. So now we want to return dignity back to these women, just to tell them that there's that time for crying, there's that time of, we all process that in our own ways. But after that, we need to pick up the pieces and move on with our lives. So as we go on with that chama of ours, we just encourage one another. We reach out to others, many women. Those who even don't talk about it are many. So, but us, we know them, and we just be there for them, and just be that friend that you never had. Because I think there is power in friendship. Like when you're going to police, when you have somebody accompanying you, or you're going to hospital, because sometimes you might be sent to the lab and you don't know where it is. Just
having someone to walk with you.
I think it's powerful.
And finally, what do you tell somebody who's watching and has been violated? And as you said, very many people don't talk about it. What do you tell them?
Just reach out for help, because sometimes you might put it in a corner of your mind and just lock it out there, and it's a time bomb. But just reach out for help. You can, there are many hospitals, or you can look for me. I take you to, I'm ready, that's what I do. I connect you to the different service providers for you to, because counseling is important. Sometimes you might be there and you deny yourself. You say all men are bad, but there are good men out there who maybe, you never know, one day you might get better and
still continue and lead a normal life. Lydia, our time is up, but as the message and the work you're doing at Kovo, at this particular point, you've said, of course, strides, yes, have been made, but it continues to be a challenge in terms of the different facets and stakeholders involved in this particular fight, war against gender-based violence. What is your message in closing?
My message would be, according to the theme of this year, we have to start asking ourselves, what can I do to address violence against women? People always believe that it's up to the institutions or to the non-governmental organizations or to the government itself. But then you have to ask yourself, myself, if you were to hear your neighbor beating up his wife, what would you do? Then that means you become part of the problem. You have to be able, even if you just go and knock at the door, that will be enough for him to stop it. You have to be able
and it's good you're saying that, because that's part of the violence. People think that's kawaida. Those are having their issues.
But he's just beating his wife. These are the things which happen every day. And I'm like, no, that is gender-based violence, sexual violence, whatever it is. We need to start getting a greater understanding of what it means to prove sexual violence in court. First of all, let us disabuse ourselves of the notion that we must get medical evidence. So we must try to also inform ourselves about what the legal mechanisms are, and also where to seek for help. And just the most important thing, if we want to be change agents, the non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, government cannot do it on their own. We have to rise up ourselves. We have to speak out. We have to stand. We stand up, and we have to stay in the fight. And also, we have to be able to start celebrating champions like Linda. For instance, like we're having a Human Rights Champions Day on the 10th of December as a way of closing up the 16 days of activism. So let's also start recognizing the people out there who are actually doing something right.
Lydia Muthiani, Deputy Director Kovo, and Linda Munyendo, survivor of rape. Thank you so much for your bravery, for your courage to come and talk about it. It takes a lot. We appreciate you, and thank you, my dear. I wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
The rest of your work.